Lesson 1-1, Words and Expressions. What exactly is a mathematical expression? Well, in math language, an expression is a combination of numbers and operations. Let's consider the simple expression. 6 divided by 3 plus 2 minus 1. Now, when we have more than one operation within an expression, the order in which we perform these operations is very important. This is what is called the order of operations, often abbreviated as PEMDAS. The P, of course, standing for parentheses, E for exponents, M for multiplication, D for division, A for addition, and S for subtraction. It is important to note that we multiply and divide from left to right, as well as add and subtract from left to right. So let's consider the expression below. The operations we're dealing with, in this case, are division, addition, and subtraction. So which operation do we evaluate first? Well, division always comes before addition and subtraction, according to our order of operations. So we will divide 6 by 3. 6 divided by 3 gives us 2, and we will bring down the remaining portion of our expression. We are now left with addition and subtraction, and this is often a common area of confusion. It's often assumed that we always add before we subtract, and that isn't always the case. As I stated before, it depends on which of these operations comes first from left to right. We add and subtract from left to right. Now in this case, addition comes first, going from left to right. So we will add. 2 plus 2 gives us 4. Bringing down the minus 1. 4 minus 1 leaves us with 3. So this expression is simplified to simply 3. Let's try one that's slightly more difficult. Let's consider the following expression. Okay, there are a lot of things going on in this expression. Not only am I working with parentheses, but I'm also working with a set of brackets that surrounds my parentheses. We can treat brackets the same way as we do parentheses. So in this case, we will perform the operations that are within these brackets. Now, inside these brackets, we have a set of parentheses. So we will perform that first. 8 minus 3 gives us 5. Bringing down the rest of our expression. We are still working inside our brackets, so 5 times 2 gives us 10. So we are left with two operations, subtraction and addition. Which do we perform first? Well, as I stated before, we add and subtract from left to right. So in this case, subtraction comes first from left to right. So we will evaluate. 10 minus 6 gives us 4, and 4 plus 1 leaves us with 5. So our final answer is 5. Sometimes we will be asked to convert word expressions into mathematical expressions or numerical expressions. Let's consider the word expression. Five increased by a number. Now, in order to convert this into a mathematical expression, I have to think about what the different words represent. The word 5, of course, simply represents the number 5. The words increased by represent an operation. Let's refer to the handy chart above. The word increased tells us to add. And a number simply stands for a number that we don't know, that is not identified. And because it's unknown, we can call it a letter. In this case, I'm going to represent that number as x. You could have called it x, z, y, c. It really doesn't matter in this case. So 5 increased by a number can be rewritten as 5 plus x. Let's try another one. Let's consider the word phrase 12. Let's write it as a word. 12 decreased by x. Please excuse the messy handwriting, I'm still getting used to this thing. Okay, in this case, the number 12, of course, simply represents, the word 12 represents the number 12. What about the words decreased by? Looking at our chart, decreased tells us to subtract. So decreased by tells us to take away or to subtract. And of course, x represents a number that is not known, so we will leave it as x. So 12 decreased by x can be rewritten as 12 minus x. Okay, let's try a couple more for some practice. Let's consider the word phrase the product of 8 and y decreased by 7. Okay, what operation does product tell us to perform? Well, at this point in our math careers, we should know that the product is the result of a multiplication problem. So product stands for multiply. 8, of course, stands for the number of 8. Y is the number that we don't know, so we will leave it as y. Decreased by stands for subtraction. And the word 7, of course, is simply the number 7. So the product of 8 and y, decreased by 7, can be rewritten as 8 times y minus 7, or simply 8y minus 7. In algebra, when we're multiplying a number times a letter, we normally don't use the multiplication sign. 8y is understood that we're multiplying 8 times y. Okay, let's try one more. Let's consider the word phrase 6 less than the number z. Okay, a lot of people tend to get confused with word phrases that include the words less than. Our common intuition tells us that this would simply be translated as 6 minus z, because less than tells us to subtract. And of course that is right. Less than does mean subtract. However, let me ask you a question. Let's say you had $10 and your friend had $6 less than you. To figure out how much money your friend has, would you do 6 minus 10 or would you do 10 minus 6? Well, of course you would do 10 minus 6. So it's the exact opposite as the way it's written. So 6 less than a number z really means z, whatever the amount of z is, minus 6. So remember, when you see the words less than, it will always be the opposite when you write it as an expression, as a mathematical expression.